Welcome to Creatively Speaking, episode 8, with your host, Lawrence Mayfield. Today, I guess we're just going to talk about another solo. I haven't really been able to line up the people that I wanted to get a hold of. I've been trying to work on getting a hold of a visual artist. It's been a little bit more trickier than I thought it would be. But right now, I guess there's things that I want to talk about as far as content creation is concerned. And that's mainly the gist of what I'm going to talk about today in this month's episode. So the first thing I want to talk about is this thing that I've coined. Let's call it creative tunnel vision. And a tunnel vision is a general term. I think, people can kind of imagine that, a lot of focus gets on one point, and then you're neglecting the whole picture here. Something gets lost in the mix when you're having tunnel vision, right? But there is a more exclusive one to creativity, and I've been recognizing that maybe there's times when I think that every artist is probably guilty of this to some degree, because then it becomes a conversation in your mind of what you're creating and what you're sharing and the value of that said thing. And, there's terms like, it's in the eye of the beholder or whatever. But also, that debate has to happen. Like, you have to have a discussion on what you're creating with yourself to know if it's of value to other people. You know what I'm saying? And I guess I'm trying to come to terms with how I'm viewing that in my head. But creative tunnel vision for me is like, it's an instance where, you have the excitement of making something like a song or, whatever. You have an idea for an artistic thing that you want to put together, and then, it comes together so hastily at times because there's so much inspiration, there's so much excitement around this moment. And when you share it, you present it and you share it, and everybody's just like, what the fuck was that? And that's basically creative tunnel vision in my mind. It's like a moment where you get blindsided by your own excitement to where, you have this thing that you think is really cool, but then nobody really understands it. And, like I've had in previous episodes where I've outlined the fact that I don't necessarily think my stuff is avant-garde. It's not like supposed to be hard to understand at most times. And I have been getting experimental with it, if anybody, which there isn't, which is another thing we're going to talk about. But there hasn't been a whole lot of like momentum. And there's stagnation more so than any movement with sharing my content. And I have a few theories, and I'm going to outline them. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this video and this sort of monologue is actually going to be ironically, sort of, self-aware, and how it doesn't even, this alone will not even reach an audience of people that will like listen to this moment, and actually have input on this topic. But I've talked to creatives about the, sort of aspect of getting your content out there and sharing it effectively. But as far as the creative tunnel vision thing, people won't necessarily understand what you're doing, and it is important to understand that just period. Like you need to be able to admit that people won't necessarily always understand what you're doing, especially the more weird you get with it, the more novel you get with it, the more harder it is going to be for people to understand it. And there'll be people that are going to probably, there'll be a percentage of people that'll pretend like they understand what it is. And then there'll be people that are like, this is kind of interesting and it's kind of cool. And I could see that, the value in that. But I don't think I'm doing anything like crazy. The stuff that I've been sharing is pretty tame, I would argue, for the most part. And, I don't know. The songs that I've been putting out there are like all instrumentals mostly. I have been holding on to a one that I did vocals on. The instrumental, if you want to call it like a project, was an effort for me to see if there was any, I don't know, over the time that I've been doing it, which is about, I've been recording and I guess mixing, and putting stuff together on the internet and sharing it as final products, as it were, for about, a quarter of a year now. So, 4 months or 3 to 4 months or so. And I think that, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't seem like, there's certain theories that I had about maybe whether or not it was like consistency was a problem. Um, Social media and internet right now is in a weird spot, like I talked about with the last episode with algorithms and stuff. But I think that, posting consistently doesn't really yield any real results. I think there was like, my theory is that there was a gold rush era, just like everything. And we're seeing a gold rush in a different kind of light with like the, I don't want to bring it up again, but the AI thing. But there's a gold rush era that is long since gone by with social media. And I think that what happened was I'm at the tail end of like I'm not even the tail end. I'm actually like entering into the social media game seriously now with content creation, with like stuff that I'm like, actually putting some, and I know this is going to come across a certain way, but just follow me for a second. Like stuff that I put thought into, you know, there's a song idea, I'm inspired, I have a moment, there's an emotion, there's something that I'm like wanting to convey in an artistic way, right? And then I share it and I put it together, and then I'm like, that's what I wanted to present. So then I throw it out there, and that's what I'm doing. Not all content is like that. I mean, I think that the production is, bigger on some things, especially with YouTube being like a visual thing, and that's where I post all my content mostly. I mean, this podcast will show up on Apple and Spotify. Apple charges me like $20, which is kind of like, whatever. But I don't know. Spotify is I'm already paying them, but I've always had, I don't know, like an aversion for these bad deals that are being made. Like, I just never understood. Like, YouTube is more of a casual, I guess in a way, a casual sort of platform for creators, if you want to look at it that way. But at the same time, I mean, there's people on there that are seriously doing it. They have like big production. They have like almost like a dating show, like TV, channels and like comedy shows and podcasts and whatever. There's actual like fucking whole TV shows and ideas on that platform that are continuing as we speak, right? But what I think is interesting is like, doing the music thing. It's like, and not having really, if you don't have the production level that say like a, bunch of people in LA have that are a little bit more, maybe that says that they're more serious about it. But in the music realm, I guess, more specifically, it's like there's an attitude, I feel like, that if you do not post, or if your stuff is not listed on certain platforms, it's like less legitimate, right? Which I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, I feel like, if people really actually sat down and like looked at the numbers and looked at, these platforms like Spotify more specifically. I mean, I know that Fantano from Needle Drop has taken shots at Spotify many times, and many more have on platforms. But I'll also jump in and take a shot here, even though I'm punching up. But you can't tell me that, in order for your music to have any chance for some reason, that has to come in the form of you shaking somebody's hand on a bad deal, an objectively bad deal. I mean, legitimately, I mean, I'm not saying my music is the worst thing ever. It's not the greatest thing since bread. It's not it's okay. Like, and I can find the value in it in pursuing it enough to where, like, I want to share it, But there is no way that you can tell me that I'm going to shake somebody's hand and pay them more than the return that I will get. I'm giving this music away for free to share with the world, just so it can be seen as more legitimate. I don't see that as being a good deal. I mean, there's just, artists are already getting shafted in many ways with the development of things mentioned in the last episode, and just in general, I mean, Spotify is prepared to bite the hand that feeds it too by investing in things like the AI and all that money is going into other unsavory ventures. But aside from that, I mean, it's just not a good deal, and I don't agree with the terms. My music is not less legitimate and has less emotional value than something that's posted on YouTube. There's no way that I can see that. Now, I will admit that there's maybe a little bit more of a saturation because of that, of the market of I guess, if you want to call it a market of entertainment ideas, right? And so, it's harder for you to stand out when there's like a floodgate and everything's open to everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's not as exclusive. Like everybody and their mom could do what I'm doing, as it were, I guess. There are certain artists that I follow that have smaller followings, but are still like sort of self-independent, down to the sort of foundation of it, right? They're not plants, right? Because I can see that their heart is in it, and I've kind of like stumbled across them like randomly as an accident through the algorithm, a lot of times. And I look for other creatives to inspire me, because if they're motivated and they're doing something that they're passionate about, it can be contagious. There is an element there. So some that come to mind, I can't pronounce her name. It's Myra, Meira. And she had a song, she's recently posted something on YouTube. It was like her doing like a loop track. It's very creative, very cool, very neat. And then she had a song I looked up on her Spotify, right? I use it still. I do very much use it, but just out of curiosity for the numbers and sake, and just to see what's going on with her numbers. And she posted this song about a year ago. It was Good For Me or something like that. It hasn't broken 10,000. And it makes you wonder. It's a really good song. It's a really good, well produced. It's very catchy, very very vibey. It's a very good song, very solid. Production's there. I'm not a producer. Okay, I'm not a professional producer, but I can tell at least everything's there. Everything makes sense. And there's also another lady named Hannah Stokes. I'm not trying to name drop everybody, but I learned a cover from her way back when on the internet because I was trying to learn Cherry Wine. So that was before she was even before where she's at right now, where she's got a record out and everything. She dropped a record, and she's very consistently trying to push her content and trying to tour and do all these like things to promote her stuff. I think she's like Florida based or something. But anyways, the point is, these people are, however varying the efforts are, I don't know what all goes into it. Even Josiah and the Bonneville's or something like that. He was, way back when he did on like American Idol or something, and he had exposure that way. and his heart was in it, even though he did not get to the level that like Morgan Wallen did or whatever, or The Voice. I guess Morgan Wallen was on The Voice or something. I don't really remember. I mean, we can also mention a few other names that I've found inspirational on YouTube. Randomly, I've come across some names that stood out to me. Like there's a guy named Joel Montfort. He's based in Dallas, songwriter. He's he'll throw covers in, but he has some really cool originals. He's just an extremely technical, well-rounded musician. I mean, he'll throw some wild guitar stuff together, and it's all just very clean. Great dynamic vocalist too. What else do we got? There's I don't know. There's this guy named Corey Bain. He posts. Well, his last post was a month ago, but he's got an incredible voice. I'm sure he could go somewhere with it. There's Kurt Lindsay. He's great voice again, great writer. Just a lot of cool random artists that I've come across on the internet. But the point is that it's never easy on anybody in general, but for artists like more specifically, it's always a competitive playground, and it's like, again, like I know that I'm not trying to necessarily, I don't know like what level I'm trying to achieve here, but for me it would be nice to have some kind of, I don't know, some sort of feedback moment where it's like, at least I know that the work that I'm putting in, that I feel like it's getting better, like obviously when I started out, I had to learn a lot of things along the way, and I've ironed out a lot of like, sort of nuanced things in the software that I wanted to get to a point where like, I'm like, this is how I want this to come across, and again, it's not, there's no vocals on a lot of my stuff, but that doesn't take away from the heart of what I'm doing. Like, I think that a lot of the music that I'm trying to put together is more, it's like I've stepped away from vocals mostly these days because I feel like it's all just negative grievances that are just so repetitive, and I don't understand what different things are being said of value. I mean, how many times can you say I love you or I hate you? Like, again, I think that I don't know. I'm just tired and burnt out from that. I think the instrumentals have been a blessing, and an ability for me to express myself in a different way and focus on the composition and the actual music of it, instead of trying to say something clever or say it in a certain kind of way. Not that I'm saying I'm putting that up entirely, but I've definitely stepped away from it as of late. The last thing I don't know. Anyways, I'm not really okay. But the point is, staying on the point of direction of content and how you push for it. I mean, I could ask everybody what their secret to success is, but I don't know. They give you all different kinds of answers. I don't know if it really matters ultimately what they say. I mean, I think that, even for me saying what I'm about to say, it's probably an element of networking. It's probably an element of, you actually have to have some kind of level of skill and talent. Not only talent necessarily, like I said, like I don't necessarily believe it's just talent for people. It can be skill. Hard work does pay off if you can show what the sort of outcome of that hard work is. If you can present that in some way, but it's a combination of those things. But I don't know. I'm convinced that content creation is in a weird spot. Like, I don't necessarily think there's any like organic growth anymore. I mean, I don't even know what that looks like at this point. I mean, it seems like there's a lot. I think there's a little bit of a pay to play type movement going on right now, because I think that with the social media platforms, they've figured out ways to like entice creators to pay to sponsor and have their stuff slipped into algorithms where they don't necessarily end up, And it's like, do I want people to stumble across my content that didn't want to hear the thing that I'm doing? Or did I just want to like have people find it and be pleasantly surprised and be like, that's nice? It's hard to say, man. I don't know. Like for me, I would like an organic growth thing, but I don't see the numbers betray me. Like I don't understand what the numbers actually mean. you know, like I could put like sometimes I've been experimenting just to see if it actually matters with like posting on a regular versus like just. I think there's theories I have, which is like that I don't I'm very like I have a very strong aversion for social media and interaction with it because I feel like it does have a tendency to sort of I don't know. It's like I have very weird theories, but I feel like there's a more mystique theories, but I won't necessarily outline what those are. But I definitely think there is some element there where it's like taking time from you, right? And not in a way that like feels satisfying, because like at the end of it, like I didn't like there's things I like to enjoy to do on my own that keep me preoccupied, and they're like they're decompression things. They're not music related. They're just like, I don't know, entertainment. You watch your favorite TV show, play video games, or whatever. And those things will feel like I'm actually engaged and I'm actually doing something. I'm interacting with that. But the scrolling and this like social media platforms, they have all these like versions of like shorts, and just it like sucks you in, and it's just like I find myself disabling and uninstalling the moment that I have uploaded the content that I want to share, because I know that I get trapped. And then an hour or two goes by and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And so it like to me it's like it's a very just like I don't feel good about that time being lost. I would rather spend it on things I like to enjoy doing, or even better, if possible, maybe like a creative idea that I have. So to me, it's like I just feel like that part is probably hurting me, because I think that in order to be getting exposure to new audiences and new people, it's possible, but I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Maybe I should, right? I should be like researching a little bit more. There's all this AI and everything I can research answers to the questions that I have. Go on Reddit, on a forum or something. How do I promote my music? I did look it up one time, but I wasn't very satisfied with the results. It's just a bunch of like suggestions of like, thumbnail, doing things with thumbnails, doing more short content or something like that. And it's like, I don't know, my content isn't short. Like I cannot compromise the full song because people's attention spans are so fucked. Like it's not my responsibility to fix that or to try to like work with that. Like I put the song out, and if people don't want to listen to it because they don't have the time, that's fine. Like I don't have the time either to listen to all this stuff on the internet. Real estate is very limited, for people's attention, and I recognize that. I mean, if I made the thumbnails more silly or ridiculous, which they're not supposed to be, because I take my stuff kind of seriously, which is unfortunate, but in some ways, but not really. Like I would rather, I don't want to be coming across as some sort of parody character. This is not the podcast and the content I'm creating is supposed to be serious. Like I wish I was more of a like fun kind of character on the internet, but it's just not my game. Like I'm not trying to be like, there's some songs that have like maybe a more bombastic sort of upbeat vibe to them, but for the most part, I mean, my content is kind of serious. Like I want it to be an expression of my experience, and I'm just not going to try and pretend otherwise, you know what I'm saying? But to suggest that thumbnails or something needs to be, I've seen the thumbnails on YouTube. It's kind of like, I don't know, it just looks, I don't know. It just like, it makes me think of like, how like media, news outlets will like use, sillier headlines and stuff just to get your attention. And it's like, well, okay, that's a little bit exaggerated. It's a lot of exaggeration, I think, is what's going on there, which there is no exaggeration. It just is what it is. If you look at the photo that I have that I've selected for the song to represent it, that's what it is. Like, it's just a backdrop. Why do I need to do I mean, I guess YouTube is a visual, so I've been told to consider, editing and learning how to make a video or something. And maybe it's just because I won't make a lot of compromises on how I'm presenting the content. That's the reason why the content doesn't go really anywhere. But, I'm just not going to pay to play. I'm not going to try to manipulate to get what I want. If people find the content and they find it valuable, then that's great. If they don't, then they don't. And there's a point now where I've come to terms with, like, it's not. I've constantly told myself, and this is on a grander level than just the creative aspect, but I've tried to take the sort of position of, like, is it my response? Is it on me to where things are at? But if the music has not gotten any sort of momentum that I would have wanted it to have, is it my fault because I haven't done A, B, C, and D? Or is it just the times? Like, can I blame the times, or do I just take full responsibility onto myself for the lack of where I wanted it to be? And that's a hard answer. It's a hard question to answer. But I really refuse to take the full responsibility. I'm not going to take the full burden, because we live in a time where it's like it's such a Wild West scenario right now. I think content creation has gotten flooded. And I think that, not to say that doesn't make for the argument that you should just give up what you're doing. I'm not saying that. I want to continue making content. I want to make music that I enjoy, that I hope that somebody else will enjoy. And I keep in mind, if this is like is this moment interesting enough for somebody else, potentially? Or is it just like, for me? I am enjoying it enough to where it's like I get creative tunnel vision moments, where I just like send it. But I will no longer take the full burden to say that it's on me. I've accepted that the times are just, it's a weird time, man. And like, one video I'll post gets 88 fucking views, and then the next song I post, which I think I put a lot more effort into, gets 3 views. Or even something that I experimented with recently was legitimately just a pure and raw experiment. It was not a song. It was just like a little artistic moment I had where I wanted to record people in a crowd talking, how it becomes like a white noise thing. You can't understand what's being said. It's just so many voices, And there was a thing I put on my YouTube just as an experiment to see if the algorithm, how it acted, on consistent uploading, as opposed to, like, if the content mattered or not. Like, I don't know, like, because my subscriber base has not changed for months, so it's like 86, which is abysmal, and that's another thing that we need to talk about is the numbers, the metrics. We're going to talk honestly about this, and I don't give a shit if anybody's feelings get hurt about this, but we need to talk about it. But, yeah, I mean, I put it out there. It was like just me experimenting with EQs and just trying to figure out, like, if I could create a weird staircase, opening up into eventually what is a recording of what you can audibly hear is just a bunch of people, rambling and blah, 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 what is the word I'm thinking of? Relaying their day, or whatever, some event in their life, all while waiting for the band to play. The most interesting part is when the music, in the background stops, like the radio music, and then it's like just everybody talking. It's like a fucking 10-second, 3-second thing, and it's so fascinating, just people. But anyways, I did it as an artistic experiment just to see what would happen, and I wasn't really surprised. I think that it really confirms to me that content creation just really is just in a weird spot. Like, it doesn't really matter what you post, Like, maybe if it was more visual, it would have some kind of moment, but if I had, like, more editing video software. But I mean, how many skill sets do I have to have before, anything gives anything? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to give I have to learn video software now just to get a visual aspect going. It's like I'm already, trying to figure out, audio software. So I guess you have to be an all-around person, I guess, these days to do anything. But anyways, let's talk about the numbers thing, right? So there's this thing on social media platforms, right, where it's like there's a lot of this like, if I follow you, you're gonna follow me, right? And I don't understand why that's like sort of a weird agreement, because if I like, to me, and I know this is maybe like me just maybe misunderstanding of the use of these platforms, but I can't, in my mind, agree to follow most people on a platform where I am actually trying to draw inspirational moments. I'm trying to actually have creative people around me on some of these platforms that are doing something creative. And I cannot justify following a bunch of people just to artificially jump my numbers. I refuse to do that. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. If you're not doing anything creatively artistic, why would I follow you? I mean, that's a different matter. Like, if you're my friend and we want to hang out, like, yeah, that's a different thing. I have your number or something. But on platforms like that, I don't understand the necessity to pretend like we need to follow each other, and I'm not as pursuant of a creative endeavor and to share that endeavor. I'm not going to follow you. And if that puts me, this is another thing I don't understand. It's like the numbers are not, they're false, If you look at the disparity between the follower versus following, a lot of times it's like maybe 20% of it leans in the one side, What does that say? If you have a follower base that is 20% less than your following or more, what does that say? If you have 20% more followers than you have following, so maybe like 20%, that means that the 20% is your real base of people that are following you. Right? Maybe 15%. Take 5% off. There's random, whatever. Or perhaps we can even consider if it's 20% less. If my number of followers is less than my following, then that's also a bad sign in my opinion. But the numbers, I don't know, the numbers kind of, we can look at them and we can kind of like try to interpret what they mean. But I don't know really ultimately what it comes down to. Like I don't know. I mean, ideally, in my mind, you want your follower base to be higher than your following, because if you, like if you're a creative and you have artistic direction and pursuit, you want to have people that you are looking to creatively to inspire you, and then they can also jump to you and see what you're doing. That's like, in theory, what I would have thought these things were for. But of course, it's a lot of, it's everything, it's everything's everything all the time, it's whatever. Facebook, it's all Facebook, all these things, TikTok, TikTok is another one. It's like, I think that TikTok has become a weird, I don't know, like I feel like that's more of the popular version of the short video thing. And obviously, like I've gone back and forth and I've had conversations with my creative friends, but then deep down, there's something that just will not allow me to come to terms with interacting with those things. And I don't know what it is, but I cannot, I feel like there's something that holds me back from genuinely trying to take these things seriously. And I don't know, there's a lot of like people on the internet that are trying to sell you their idea of how to get rich quick, how to get success quick with your music. There's a lot of hustlers out there, you know. They're on the prowl to tell you what you need to do in order to get your content to go somewhere meaningful. And I'm here to tell you in my 7-step program that if you sign up right now, you'll make me a very rich man. And then maybe I won't have to worry about this shit no more. No. I think that, I'm going to keep that in there. I think there's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of hucksters and hustlers, you know? I think that's, I don't think things have changed. I think that it's weird to know that those people get created. I don't know how those people happen. I think they just like, they get a little bit of a following maybe, and then they try to like use their following and like convince them that they know how to do things or something. I don't know. I don't know how you'd make that transition, or maybe that's just a personality trait of like sort of manipulative behavior to be the person that wants to become a fucking charlatan and a fucking, 7-step program guy. But I'm not trying to kill my enthusiasm by uploading constantly, Like this podcast, whether or not it has like 1 or 2 people listening to it, and my mom, which my mom doesn't even listen to it. But, like the whole thing is like, it's for me to outline for myself and something I can go back to for, inspirational moments and just understanding where I came from. Where am I now type moment, And I'm not trying to kill my enthusiasm and my love for music. It's a love-hate thing. And, there was conversations I had with people that talked about how they like, you should just do it for the love of the game, love of music. Like it's all, never force something. But I don't think that's not how like I perceive music, And I guess we can have a conversation about this, which is that it's a serious conversation of like, I guess kind of like at the beginning what I was saying about, I guess what you want from this thing, right? And I think that the conversation went something along the lines of, you should do it for the love of it, and it shouldn't be, because the moment you treat it like anything else, then it becomes something else. It becomes kind of like a job, right? And I can see that. I think there is a consequence to that transition of like the framing of that, to make music into a job. I think you would lose the love of it, because when you're doing it just because you have this drive to get it to help you go some other direction in life, then you kind of, you end up doing it, you just, it's hard to explain, but I feel like you lean into it differently on an emotional level, But I don't know what the other angle would be because I've never had success with it, so still waiting for that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at, your content and then like making it and then wanting it to be giving you some kind of tangible return. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think that if we go to our jobs every day, and again, I'm not trying to like necessarily call it a job, but if you look at your music and you put time and energy, legitimate energy into it, real moments are put into this thing, whatever the song is, whatever the thing, whatever the painting or whatever. And you share that with the world, and, it doesn't go anywhere. There's no, you do that like, I don't know, 50 times. Let's say you do that 100 times. Let's say you do that like for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people do. A lot of artists do. Like we've talked about Erik Satie and all these like artists that, Edward Hopper or whatever, there was a moment eventually that panned out for them, but for every Edward Hopper and Erik Satie, how many artists never go anywhere? There's probably like 1,000 for every one of those guys. Like not even more than that, you can't even probably count how many there would be. To every Edward Hopper and every Erik Satie, there's like just innumerable amount of people that have not made it. They're still playing their guitar on the corner of 6th Street, Beale Street, whatever, dreaming to, have their stuff be heard and be understood. But yeah, you go into your job, right? And you get an immediate paycheck within 2 weeks or within the week or within the month, whatever the, setup is, agreement, whatever. You get an immediate return on your services. Why is it so different for music? Why is it that in order for the content that you're creating to be given a value, it has to be, obviously I get it. Like, you have to have a certain audience, and then if you're pulling people into a venue or something, then you created value. You created something of an experience for people, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I understand that, but how long does it take, And that's what I haven't really come to terms with. Like, I think that there's nothing wrong with asking for a return in some tangible fashion. I can feel good about the songs that I've made. I can feel excitement about what I'm doing. I can feel the creative tunnel vision, as it were. But unless I feel that other people are feeling that, then what have I just done? I think there was some puppeteer, ventriloquist comic, or whatever. I don't know, Randy, what is his name? I don't know. He was like a purple Australian foul-mouthed puppet or something. And he had this, there was this one skit he did where he talked about, is art really art if it's never shared, or something like that? And it was the same conversation with Mark too, It was like, you got to share it, the art needs to be put out there in the world. But like, again, if I get 88 views and I get 3 views on the next one when I actually try, what was actually accomplished, I feel like sometimes what's the point, And even this podcast, like, if I continue it and if I can somehow manage to wrangle in elusive creatives that, then where is this going to go? I feel like at times, it feels like I'm throwing darts in the dark. The board is in the building, but this building is like a warehouse, and it's just dark, and there's no lights, and I got the darts. I can have infinite amount of darts, but the dartboard is like somewhere in there, and I'm just throwing the fucking darts, and I don't even know if it's getting close or not. I have no idea. That's what it feels like right now. It feels like a dartboard in a warehouse that's fucking dark, and it is discouraging. It's there's times when I don't want to do the music, but I it makes me feel better sometimes to put something together and feel like I did something like creative that expressed what I was going through or something, Even as ambiguous as it was, I still feel like it's important. It is valuable. People tell me that all the time. Just keep doing it, But it's hard to justify keep doing something without a difference of, an outcome. Because am I going to look back 5 years from now and it's just going to be the same scenario, or is there going to be some kind of change moment here? Like, you could do like a whiteboard. Let's do like we're going to do strategies here. We're like a business, Let's look at the graph here. Let's look at different strategies we can list off here. Like, are we trying this? Are we trying that? We could do that to really push for this, Or do we just let it be, let it be, let it grow the way that it was intended? I don't know. This is an era of like, I feel like everything has to be a fucking flashbang. It's just got to be like, bam, in your face. Like, if it didn't excite you in the moment, then swipe, The goal rush era is over. We're living in a different era now. And that's all right. That's the way of things. They go some kind of way, some direction. Whatever that is, good or bad, I don't know. I will continue to make content. I will try to get a guest on next month's episode if I can. I feel like visual artists are a little more elusive than most creatives, and I think that they're like, well, they're harder to spot, maybe. Ironically, right? Hard to get an eye on a visual artist. They're not out there wailing on a fucking box with strings. They're at home. They're on some getaway with a canvas looking out to the pasture or something. But we'll see. I'm going to try and get somebody on for the next month. I don't know who it'll be. Maybe it'll be somebody of a different direction creatively. But I'm hoping to get a guest because I have plenty of stuff we can talk about to keep the show going, right? But that'll be the next month's episode, and I want to thank you for listening.